Our video is complete. Now we only need to finish the last step before we start sharing it. The last step is called export, and it's one of the most important. Now we're going to export our video to different formats to fit all the social media platforms. Are you ready to export the final video? In this episode, I'll explain how you do it properly. Let's begin. Once our editing is finished, we'll export our video. The export is a process the editing software uses to combine all the files such as videos, imagery, audio clips, effects, text, graphic. It will process and compress them, creating the final video. Let's go through the export process step by step. First of all, we'll go to the timeline where the video has been edited. We'll drag the point to the spot where the video begins. We press the letter I in the keyboard, that means in. Now we take the point to the spot where we want the video to end. We press the letter O in the keyboard, that means out. Once we've done this, we click File, then Export, and finally Media. Then in the Export panel, we select Format H.264, which is the most compatible. This type of compression has the best ratio between quality and the size of the file, meaning it generates files of low weight but with great quality. Here in the preset, we select Match Source High Bitrate to export it in the same way we have set up in our sequence, 1920 by 1080, 25 frames per second. We click on Output Name in order to name our video and select the folder we want it to be saved on. We name the video, select the export folder we have previously created, then we save it. Last step, we click Export. We wait a few minutes until the video is exported. This process will work accordingly to the power of your computer. Once the export is finished, we check on our export folder and play the video. This step is very important. Sometimes there are mistakes in the export and you need to export again. This is why, once it's exported, make sure that the program has done it correctly and no frame has been left out during the process. We can see that our video has been exported correctly. Our video is ready and now we want to share it on social media. But we realize that each social network establishes a different aspect ratio to publish videos. The aspect ratio is a proportion between the width and the height of the image. When both sides of an image are exactly the same, the aspect ratio is square, meaning 1:1. When the image is horizontal, the aspect ratio is rectangular, 16:9. Like in our video, if the image is vertical, the aspect ratio will be rectangular, 9:16. In YouTube, for example, there are many videos in horizontal, 16 by 9. In Instagram, the aspect ratio is square, 1:1, if it is to be stored in the feed, and vertical, 9 by 16 for a story. In TikTok, it's vertical. Since we want our videos to have the biggest impact, we'll adapt our videos to the aspect ratio in each social network we want to post. But don't worry, this doesn't mean we have to make the video from the beginning. We just have to copy our addition to 16 by 9 into a new sequence and make a few text and image adjustments in order to fit it in the aspect ratio we need. It's more work, but worth it. Let's get into it. We're going to create a new version of our video in horizontal form from 16:9 to square 1:1, ideal for our Instagram and Facebook feed. In order to do so, we create a new sequence. We click File, then New, and finally Sequence. We choose the option DSLR 1080p25. This option will allow us to edit video clips at 920 by 1080 and high definition progressive video from 16:9 at 25 frames per second. Right now, this new sequence has exactly the same adjustments than the main video. We'll click anywhere in the timeline panel, go to the upper menu, click on Sequence, and then click on Sequence Settings. This panel will be open. In the video section, we are changing the settings. We write 1080 where it reads 1920, and where it reads 1080, we're going to leave it the same, getting an aspect of 1:1. We click OK. Take a look at the playback monitor. Can you see how much has changed? Now it's square. Well, we'll go back to our main editing. We copy it completely to paste it on our new sequence. In order to do so, we select the entire sequence, clicking on an empty track and drag the mouse. We have all the elements of the addition selected, image as well as audio. We click on the right button over the selected area and click on Copy. We come back to the square sequence, placing the cursor at the beginning of the sequence. We go into Edit and click on Paste. We already have our editing in the new sequence, but notice what happened. The text as well as the image exit the margins. Unfortunately, the items our editing do not adapt automatically to the new aspect ratio, so it's up to us to adjust each item one by one. Let's go step by step. Adjusting the image. First of all, we're adjusting every image. Let's go to the first one. We access the Effects Control panel. First of all, I'll remove the movement keyframes. That's how we clean the tracking at the image, so make the editing easier. As we are changing the settings in terms of size, it's better to start from scratch. We'll do that by clicking on the left icon and accepting the removal of the keyframes, as indicated by the program. The next thing to do is changing the position of the shot in the x-axis. We'll always lose some information on the sides, and you will need to decide how to frame it. In this clip, I adjust left and lose information on the right. In this other clip, I adjust to the right, losing frame on the left. And this one, I'm centering it, losing a bit of the frame on the left and right. We analyze each shot, readjust, and move the image from left to right, looking for the central spot and look for the best position of the shot. We repeat this process with all the images one by one. Adjusting the text. The next thing to do is reduce the size of the text. Following the same process that we learned in the last episode, we'll have to adjust them one by one. Adjusting the rest of the items. Let's go with the hashtag. To adjust the position, we click Effects Control to relocate the placement to your liking. We'll do the same with the logo too. At the end of the video, you can adjust the logo according to your preference. We don't need to modify the transitions. Are you ready to export your videos to square format? First, we click File, then Export, and finally Media. Inside the Export panel, select H.264. Here, Preset, select Match Course High bitrate to be exported in the way our sequence was configured, in 1080 by 1080 at 25p. We click here in Output Name to name our video and select the export folder. Finally, click on the button Export. As we did before, we wait for the video to be exported, and once it's done, we check the video in our folder. Export to check if it has been correctly exported. Once we check our video, we are ready to share it on social media. Let's see how to export it in a vertical aspect ratio 9:16. Every time you want to export a video in a different format to the one it was shot with, we'll have two possibilities on how to do it. Adapt to vertical losing information. In this case, we'll adapt our horizontal image to vertical, however, losing information. We will follow the same steps that we use for the square option. We'll work in a new sequence at 1080 by 1920, achieving an aspect ratio of 916. The Paris video was intended to be watched horizontal to upload to YouTube, but if we want to do a vertical version, the images will be cut on the sides, in which we will not like. So what can we do then? Adapt to vertical without losing information. I recommend a simple tip that will allow you to export your videos vertically without losing info on the sides. First, you create a background around the video. Then, open Photoshop and create a file with the same resolution of the sequence, that is 1080 by 1920. Insert a frame of the original video in horizontal 1920 by 1080 and place it on the top so it stays inside the rectangle. Set it in the middle, leaving the same space above and below. Now we create the background, meaning the upper and bottom part area that my video is not covering. Now we paint the background. Select the paintbrush and click the background. Lastly, we save it as a Paris background PNG in the folder Media Other Items. We now import the background to Premiere, go to Media Browser, and from there, we move it to the timeline. We now look into our export folder for the original video exported in 16:9. Here it is. And we import again into Media Browser, and from there, we drag it to the timeline and frame it so it fits on the sides. We click to center, and that's that. We have to place the background that was created below the main video. We'll add the Paris logo above. We drag it from the media browser and adjust it in the control effects area. Now we add our hashtag in the bottom. Next, we place the social media icons. This method will allow us not to lose any information and at the same time have a vertical video. The video will be smaller, but we'll have it vertically as we want it. Okay, the video is in vertical format. Now it's time to export following this process we previously went through. Another important factor to consider in the export, besides format, is the size, meaning how many megabytes the video uses. Once again, that would depend on how you're using the video. If you want to show your video in a movie theater or a TV screen, my recommendation is to export it in the same quality you shot it. However, if you want to share the video by WhatsApp, you have to consider that your video should not be bigger than 64 megabytes. It's better if it's smaller. In order to control the size of the file, you can export modifying the presets. For our videos, we keep the format H.264. Then, in preset, we select the option, Match Source Adaptive Low Bitrate. In the bottom of the panel, we have the size of the file. If you want to reduce the size even more, click Video and then to bitrate setting and adjust the setting. Target bitrate until we obtain the size of the file we want. We click on Export and that's it. Well, we're at the end of the 5th episode, and so far we've learned how to shoot a video professionally with your smartphone, how to edit it in Filmora, one of the most easy and simple editing softwares. We also learned how to make a cinematic video using one of the most advanced editing software, Adobe Premiere Pro. In addition, we've integrated graphics and text in the video using Premiere Pro and a little bit of Photoshop. And finally, we learned how to export correctly and adapt our videos for different social networks. In the next episode, we'll talk about viral videos. Bye!